Armin knew something was wrong the moment his boss called him into the office at the end of the day. It was late, the kind of late when the building felt hollow and every sound echoed too clearly. Most of the staff had already left, and the cleaning crew moved quietly through the hallways. Armin stepped inside, expecting a routine task or maybe a last-minute delivery. Mr. Khalid didn't look up right away. He sat behind his desk, scrolling through his phone, his face unreadable. Then, without much expression, he picked up a set of car keys and slid them across the table. "Take my wife home," he said. Armin blinked, unsure if he heard correctly. It wasn't a strange request on the surface. He had done small errands before, picked up documents, dropped off packages, even driven clients once or twice. But this felt different, personal, unusual. "Sir," Armin asked carefully. "She's waiting downstairs," Mr. Khalid added, still not making eye contact. "Driver's off today. I trust you." There was that word again. Trust. It sounded simple, but the way it hung in the air made Armin uneasy. Still, he nodded, saying no wasn't an option. "Not here." "Of course," he replied. He took the keys and walked out, his mind quietly turning. The office lights flickered slightly as he passed through the hallway. Something about this situation didn't sit right, but he couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the timing, maybe it was the tone. Or maybe it was the fact that Mr. Khalid hadn't even looked at him while asking. Outside, the evening air was cool. The parking lot was almost empty, except for a sleek black car near the entrance. Armin spotted her immediately. Mrs. Khalid stood beside the car, perfectly still, like she had been waiting for a long time. She wore a simple outfit, elegant but not flashy, and her expression was calm to calm. He approached and gave a polite nod. "Ma'am." She opened the back door without a word and stepped inside. That was the first moment something felt truly off. Most people would sit in the front seat for a short drive, especially if it was just a ride home. But she chose the back, creating distance. Armin hesitated for a second before getting into the driver's seat. He adjusted the mirror slightly, catching a glimpse of her face. She was looking out the window, not at him. "Where to, ma'am?" he asked. She gave him the address quietly. Armin started the car, and they pulled out of the lot. The city moved. Around them, cars passing, lights flashing, people rushing to their homes. Inside the car, though, it felt strangely silent. Not peaceful silence, but heavy silence. The kind that made every small movement feel louder than it should. He tried to focus on the road, but his thoughts kept drifting. He had seen Mrs. Khalid a few times before at company events. She had always seemed polite, distant, but normal. Nothing about her behavior back then matched this quiet, almost cold presence behind him. He glanced in the mirror again. She hadn't moved. "Everything okay, ma'am?" he asked, trying to break the tension. "Yes," she said shortly. That was all. No follow-up. No small talk. The silence returned, thicker than before. Minutes passed. The roads grew less crowded as they moved away from the busy center. Streetlights stretched in long lines, and the hum of the engine filled the space between them. Armin adjusted his grip on the wheel. His instincts were telling him something wasn't right, but there was nothing he could point to directly. Then, suddenly, her voice cut through the quiet. "Pull over." Armin frowned slightly. "Here." "Now," she said, firmer this time. He looked around. They were on a quieter road, lined with trees and closed shops. It wasn't a usual place to stop, but her tone left no room for argument. He slowed down and pulled the car to the side. The engine idled softly. Armin turned slightly in his seat. "Is something wrong?" For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she leaned forward just enough for her face to come into view in the mirror. Her expression hadn't changed, but her eyes were different now, focused, sharp. "Just wait," she said. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Wait for what? Seconds stretched longer than they should have. Armin's heartbeat picked up. Though nothing had happened yet, he kept his hands on the wheel, unsure whether to speak again or stay quiet. Then she opened the door and stepped out. Armin's confusion deepened. He quickly unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped out as well. Ma'am, she didn't respond. She stood beside the car, looking down the road as if expecting someone. The air felt colder now. Or maybe it was just him. Do you need help? He asked. She turned to him slowly. For the first time, there was a hint of something in her expression. Not fear, not confusion. Something controlled. No, she said, I'm fine. Before he could ask anything else, a car passed by, its headlights briefly lighting up the scene. In that flash, Armin noticed something he hadn't seen before. Her calm wasn't natural. It was deliberate, carefully maintained. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the moment ended. She got back into the car without explanation. Let's go, she said. Armin hesitated but returned to the driver's seat. He didn't ask more questions. Something told him not to. They continued the drive. But the atmosphere had changed. The silence was no longer just uncomfortable, it was tense. Every second felt like it was leading to something, though he didn't know what. Armin kept replaying the moment in his head. Why stop there? Why step out? What was she waiting for? Nothing made sense. When they finally reached the house, it was already dark. The property was large, well-lit, and guarded. Armin parked the car near the entrance. We're here, he said quietly. She opened the door and stepped out again. This time, she paused before walking away. For a brief moment, she looked back at him. And in that moment, Armin felt it clearly. Something had just gone wrong. He couldn't explain how or why. But the feeling was undeniable. Good night, she said. Her voice was calm again. Almost normal. Then she walked inside, leaving him alone in the car. Armin sat there for a few seconds, staring ahead. His hands were still on the wheel, his mind racing. The entire drive replayed in fragments. The silence, the sudden stop, the look in her eyes. None of it added up. Finally, he shook his head and started the car again. Maybe he was overthinking. Maybe it was just a strange evening. People had their moods. Not everything meant something deeper. At least, that's what he told himself. The next morning, everything fell apart. It started with the looks. When Armin walked into the office, conversations stopped. People who usually greeted him avoided eye contact. A few whispered to each other as he passed. The air felt different, colder, distant. He frowned, confused. Then someone handed him a message. Mr. Khalid wants to see you. His stomach tightened. Armin walked to the office, his mind already racing. Something was wrong. He could feel it now, stronger than before. He knocked and stepped inside. This time, Mr. Khalid was looking at him, but not the way he used to. There was no trust in his eyes, only distance. Sit, he said. Armin did. There was a pause, heavy and uncomfortable. Then Mr. Khalid spoke. What happened last night? The question hit harder than expected. Double quotes, sir. Armin replied, genuinely confused. My wife, Mr. Khalid said, his voice tightening slightly. She told me everything. Armin's heart skipped. Double quotes, sir. I don't understand. You were supposed to take her home. Mr. Khalid interrupted. That's all I did, Armin said quickly. There was just a short stop because she asked. Mr. Khalid's expression hardened. She told me you stopped the car and made her uncomfortable. The words felt unreal. Armin stared at him. What? No, that's not true. She asked me to stop. I didn't enough. Mr. Khalid cut in. Silence fell. Armin's mind raced, trying to process what was happening. The pieces from last night started to fall into place. But the picture they formed didn't make sense. Why would she say that? Why twist something so simple into something serious? Sir, I would never, Armin began. I trusted you, Mr. Khalid said quietly. That word again. But now it felt different. Not heavy. Broken. Armin felt something drop inside him. I didn't do anything wrong, he said, his voice steady but strained. Khalid didn't respond immediately. He just looked at him, as if measuring something invisible. Then he leaned back slightly. We'll handle this formally, he said. And just like that, everything Armin had built started slipping away. As he left the office, the whispers grew louder. The look sharper, the silence heavier. Armin walked back to his desk, his thoughts spinning. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't just a bad moment. It was something else. Something planned. And for the first time, a chilling realization settled in. That drive wasn't a simple favor. It was the beginning of something much worse.